So one of the big challenges in supply chain today is attracting and retaining really good talent. And that's the topic for this week, coming right up. So attracting and retaining talent in supply chain. We're talking this week with someone who's very passionate about this topic. Sofia, welcome. Sofia Rivas Herrera. And what part of the world are you talking to us from?
Well, hello, Rob. Thank you so much for inviting me. I am in Guadalajara, Mexico right now, and
Wow.
this is we're a bit across the world right now, right?
Yeah. And I think we connected a little while ago on LinkedIn, didn't we? When you've been doing some amazing stuff over the last couple of years. You've been speaking at loads of seminars and conferences, and you run a podcast as well on supply chain.
Yeah, well, they invited me to host some of the episodes, and that's something I have been doing. It was a podcast in Spanish,
Yeah,
so yeah, it was a really interesting project.
that's amazing. Yeah, and I know one of your passions is around attracting and retaining talent in supply chain. Maybe we could kick off with what drew you to supply chain? Why supply chain out of all the careers?
Yeah, sure. So I think, well, a little bit of background. I studied industrial engineering here in Mexico, and that career is a bit more focused on manufacturing, or that's how they teach it in this part of the world. And at the end, I found that I didn't want to spend my life in manufacturing or in production lines, and that I needed something more. And one day, a professor mentioned the word supply chain, and for me, it was like, okay, I need to go find out more about it. And I hunted it down all over the world until I finally yeah until I finally dedicated all my elective courses to that, and then I specialized on the topic, and I really enjoy it. And the reason why is it's more holistic, right? It also accounts for manufacturing, but it goes from the idea of a product to the delivery of it, and now even to the return of that product into a new life cycle. So I think for me, the type of challenges that I face in this field are not are not limited and are not the same. And I think that's one of the things why I like it so much.
It's interesting, isn't it? That I think supply chain attracts people who are kind of part engineer in their minds. I mean, it can be quite analytical, but it also
Hmm.
has that very practical aspect, it's a very people focused industry as well, I think. So yeah, I think it's great that you're promoting it out there. So what's your interest in talent acquisition and retention? Are you kind of wanting more people to get into supply chain? What's behind that?
Disclaimer: I'm not in HR,
No,
and not,
I
and
understand
I'm
that, but
not.
you're kind of an ambassador, aren't you, for supply
Yeah,
chain?
correct. It's just for our audience, then that they don't get confused. But
No.
uh,
You heard it
no,
here. Don't ask Sophia for jobs. She's not in
yeah,
HR.
don't ask me for jobs. Well, you can, and maybe we can see, but I can't promise anything. But yeah, I think like from what I've seen in my career is that whenever you we get a lot of people in entry level jobs for supply chain, but not all of them move on to the next phase, which would be, I would say, like mid-level management, or I don't know, from that even higher to C levels, and that those kind of following that hierarchical path, right? And from the beginning to that point, you see even less and less diversity. And I see diversity not only in terms of people from different places around the world who speak different languages, but also gender wise, you see even less and less women when you keep growing in the industry. So I think part of my motivation is how can we bring more people to get interested about supply chain, but also how can we make them stay, and understanding what's making them go to other areas. And yeah, I think that's something I preach and speak to every day, and especially because I know that, for example, the new generations coming have special skills and special focuses and expertise that I know that will bring a lot of value to the industry as well. And I know that going to marketing sounds more exciting than supply chain, but that's why I feel like we definitely need a rebrand uh, for the industry.
Mm.
I think that there are a lot of things we don't show that happen here, apart from being the muscles of the decision making, and also, yeah, I mean, we are the ones impacting the world and people and everything around us. So yeah, I think we should definitely share more of those experiences to others. And
Mm. Yeah, I admire your efforts with your podcasts and all that kind of stuff. And in fact, we'll put some links down below the video as to some of the things that you're doing. I think that's tremendous. You know, it's interesting, isn't it? If you talk to people 3 or 4 years ago about supply chain, it's kind of nah, that's not what I want to get into.
mhm.
But over the last 2 or 3 years, I think everybody now knows what supply chain's about, which you know, one of the plus sides, if there is one, of COVID is probably that everybody now knows how important supply chains are and what they do, and they keep the world moving. So do you think that's had an impact and that people are more interested now in joining the supply chain field?
I think definitely it has put us under the radar.
Mm,
And if I try to do like an analogy to the spectacle industry or theater industry, we now have the spotlight, but we need to perform, right?
yeah,
So not only perform in terms of excellence in the operations, but also showcase what we do, right?
yeah.
And I think that's the part we're missing. We're getting there. For example, if I know many who will see this interview know you and follow you because you do that. But I feel like even there are a lot of other people around the world that do this, but do not share. So I think this is like that part of when you see it, you can be it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I like that. When you see it, you can be it. You know, it's interesting. I'm very lucky in that my day job is running a management consulting company, so I get
mhm,
to work with lots of different companies and lots of great people. And one of the things that I find inspiring all the time is some of the clients that we're working with. Um, and I think I've never really thought about this, but I think there's been a big change maybe over the last 10 years.
mhm.
10 years ago, if you were a supply chain manager, it was all about trucks and warehouses and stuff like that. But the supply chain managers I'm dealing with now are really quite dynamic leaders. And they've got, a much broader range of responsibilities in an organization. They're dealing at much higher levels in the organization. Um, and I think, anyone who's watching this and thinking about getting into supply chain, follow follow Sofia's path, jump on in there, and there's some great opportunities. I mean, I have friends who are CEOs who started out in supply chain, so it really is the path to the top now.
And there are several studies that we will share the links as well, but that say that supply chain professionals have what they have the right skill set and also the right experience to become CEOs of companies. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's an interview with a guy, good university friend of mine on the channel. Go and look at the interview with Mark Powell. He ended up as the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. Very smart guy. But yeah, there's a pathway to the top now in supply chain. So what would you say to people who are watching this and thinking, yeah, maybe supply chain would be a good career? What are some tips that you could give people to get into supply chain and to do well?
I think just a bit of a reflection of what I've been seeing in some interns or young professionals graduating. I feel like there is this sense that success is linear, and maybe we, with all the social media access that we have, we think that we have this feeling that everything is instantaneous, but
Mm,
it isn't. And I think like if you are someone that likes a dynamic environment, that do have these pressures of thinking that things happen instantaneously. I think that this industry is not that you grow very fast, like a speed of lightning, but you do, right? You grow your mindset, your um, knowledge, and in some industries, such as I would say e-commerce, for example, you do have a more accelerated career path. So that will satisfy to your that type of anxiety in case you have it. But also, I would say that getting into supply chain, you have these easiness to move from very upstream to very downstream. So there, I can assure you that there will be a role that you will really enjoy and find a really good match with you. And I think like understanding this flow of supply chain gives you a, a lot of perspective and holistic view of what decisions and the impact of those decisions have. And so I think if you're a very curious person, if you like to have a dynamic life, if you don't like to deal with the same thing over again, this industry can give you that.
No, that's a great summation of supply chain. It just has so many opportunities, doesn't it? If you want to deal with numbers and analytics or financials or people, this supply chain's got it all. Tell me, something I've noticed with you over the last year or two, you're very good at networking, going to events and things like that. You network really well on LinkedIn. How important do you think networking is to someone starting out in their career? And because a lot of people are nervous about that.
Yeah, I think when I got my first job, I didn't quite understood what networking was. I thought it was more on, yeah, like getting contacts and just names, and I didn't like you could do that first connection, and that's how it worked. And through time, I found out it's not only that, but from that moment onwards, you need to nurture that relationship, and with time and with patience as well, you can get value to one person and to the other. I think it's a two-way value stream, and at the end you get different kinds of opportunities that will be a great fit for you, opportunities that perhaps might lead you to a bit more tangential line in your career, or but it is up to you to define if you will take that opportunity or not, right? um but yeah, I think networking is crucial in this industry, because at the end, uh we are kind of omnipresent, and if you work with someone, I don't know, in X company and then you move to Y company, you don't know, but perhaps at the end you'll end up working again with that person, or you'll meet them as a client or meet them as a supplier. I think we're all connected, and having, yeah, building this network, this ecosystem of people really helps you when you're doing good and also when you're not doing so good. So, and I told this to someone, I think like a couple months ago. It's literally a safety net, right? So if we imagine two acrobats in Cirque du Soleil or that type of performances, and one of them falls, there's a safety net below that they will bounce right back to where they need to go. So it's up to us to build it and build this net and have it below us and nurture it so that it's still resilient, that it's still flexible, and that it's still useful for both of us, for both parties in that professional relationship.
That's probably one of the best summaries of the benefits of networking that I've heard. Let me just stress a couple of key points from that. One is it's that two-way relationship, which is so important, I think. It's not just about handing out business cards at a networking event and trying to find out what people can do for you. It's helping them as well. I
And
think
it's not
the
about selling.
no,
I
it's not
cannot
about
stress
selling
this
at
enough.
all. It's about
Exactly.
it's kind of making friends in the industry and supporting each other, which I think you put really well. The other thing which I think is really important is the time frame. It's a long-term thing. You know, you're building that network over a lifetime. And as you know, as an indication of that, I mean, my day job is running a management consulting company, but I had a call from a guy last year, and you know, hey, this is John Smith. Do you remember me? And I said, yeah, you're from that retailer in Melbourne. He said, wow, that was 15 years ago. He said, you remember what you did for us there? Can you come and do it now for my new company over in Western Australia? I said, yeah, sure. So, those connections last a lifetime.
Correct.
And I've had other clients who maybe I've known for 20 years, and they say, oh, I've decided to leave this company. I'm not sure really what I want to do. And so, I'm actively keeping an eye out, looking for opportunities for them. So I think, you really make a good point there with the networking. It's very much a two-way thing, and it's about sharing value with each other and supporting each other. Excellent.
Correct.
Okay, so one final tip for anybody getting into supply chain, what would it be? What to look out for?
Well, if your first role is going to be in operations, be ready to drink a lot of coffee and lose a little bit of sleep. But yeah, apart from that, now kidding aside, I would say do not ever stop networking or meeting new people, not only outside your company but also within. I think internal relationships are especially for us new generations, because we don't have a defined path from the beginning. Like, we don't get these planned careers in which they tell you 2 years and then you'll become senior manager, and 2 years and you'll become partner. That doesn't exist anymore. But I heard the term a few months ago as well, and it's called job crafting. So basically, you create this path, and it's nurtured by relationships within your company. So it's part of showcasing what you do, and not only what you do well, but also what you don't do that well. But it's just all the time reminding people and positioning yourself in the mind of others of what you want, what you're doing, and where you want to be. I think those are three things that I
Yeah,
recommend.
I love that term, job crafting. I've seen that so many times in client organizations, from smaller businesses to multi-billion dollar businesses, where someone with some initiative and some talent
Mm-hmm.
has taken the role that they were given and they've developed it because they've had interests or skills in other areas. And wow, they become so valued in an organization, and you almost start to craft your own career path, don't you?
Correct.
Yeah, that's a great point to finish on. So, Sophia, thank you so much for joining us today. Some gems there, some great tips for getting into supply chain and doing well in supply chain. We've got a lot of links to put down below. You're going to have to send me some links. So we'll put a
That's
link to your
right.
LinkedIn profile so people can connect to the podcast that you're doing. And you're going to send me a couple of other links as well, I think. So thank you so much for joining us. Bye for now.